So we're moving on to 2.2. So Unit 2, Section 2, which is characteristics of quadratic functions. Now the first thing I want to talk about when we go through this is, if I can get this out of the way, let's move that over here and see if I can get to that, which I can't, so let me do that. And I'll take this and pull this out like this. Here we go. So now I'm exploring properties of parabolas. So the first definition you need to know is, what is actually the axis of symmetry? Now you may have learned this previously, and all it is a line that divides the parabola into a mirror image. So if you notice, it goes right through the vertex and it goes straight up. So if you know what the h value is, it's basically a vertical line that goes straight through the vertex, because all the points that are on this side are symmetrical to this side. So they're the same distance from here to here, here to here. Now in this section, what we're going to get into is, we're still going to use the vertex form, but I'm just going to show you a different way to graph instead of actually using the transformations like we were doing previously. So here's an example. What they're going to have you do is, they're going to give you a graph, and they're going to have you label the vertex in axis of symmetry. So the first thing that you want to do is, you want to go through and label your variables. So let's figure out what the a variable is. So we all know that the a variable is this guy right here. So a equals -2. Then we know that the h variable, which is this guy right here, h equals, now remember it's always opposite, so it's -3. And then we want to go ahead and tell us what the k variable is. So k equals 4. So now that we've found the constants, you want to find out what the vertex is. Well, we know that the vertex is hk. So the vertex is -3, 4. Now, previously, we know that the axis of symmetry is basically just that h value. So remember from the previous slide, we know that x equals -3. So this right here is my axis of symmetry. So I'll just go ahead and write that. Axis of symmetry. So now that we have both of these, now that we have the vertex, so this is the vertex, and the axis of symmetry, all we have to do is go ahead and graph this right here. We need to graph this and graph this. So let's go ahead and do that. I'll pull up a graph. So I just took some time and I drew this nice pretty graph here, and took the information that we had from the previous page, which was the vertex and the axis of symmetry. So all you want to do is go ahead and plot your vertex. So go ahead and plot your vertex, which would be right here. And we want to go ahead and draw the line of symmetry. And usually with the line of symmetry, I always make it a dashed line. It's totally up to you on how you want to draw it. It's your call. So now that I have my axis of symmetry graphed, and I also have my vertex graphed, I have to find some points. So what I'm going to do is, I'm basically just going to pick 2 points. Now, think about this. We know transformation, so think about what way this graph is going to go, upward or downward. Now, if this is a negative, we know it's going downward. So if I look at this, I'm just going to pick basically 2 points to my right. Let's pick, let's go ahead and say x equals -2, and then x equals -1. Now all you have to do is take those two values and evaluate them and plug them back into your original. So I'm going to do that for x equals 2 right now. I'll just get rid of this one right here, just so let's go with x equals 2 right off the bat. We'll say x equals -2. So all I'm going to do is plug it into my equation. So -2 is my x value, and plug it in. So what this will be doing, this will give you basically my y value, because we know that f of x is the same thing as y. Our input is the x, our output is our y. So when we go ahead to solve this, we should get -2 times 1 squared plus 4, and you get y equals -2 plus 4, so y equals 2. So when I plugged in -2, I got 2. So you want to go ahead and graph that. So -2, 2. So there's a point for me right there. Now I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing with another value that we chose, which was the -1 value. So now I'm going to go ahead and evaluate my x equals -1 point. So I'm just going to plug that in so we know y equals -2. Plug in -1 plus 3, square it, and then add the 4. So it would be -2 times 2 squared plus 4. Continue to solve it, and you get -8 plus 4 equals -4. So when I plugged in -1, I'm going to get -4. So go ahead and graph that. -1, -4 would be this point down here. So if you think of this, we call this line the axis of symmetry. Okay, it means it's symmetrical, so that means the distance from this point will be the same distance from this side. So if it's 1 from here, it's the same from 1 to here. So you can just go ahead and put a point there because we know it's symmetrical, so that works. And you do the same thing down here with the -1, 4 point. So let's continue our line. Looks like I didn't go far enough down. We didn't do far enough with the axis of symmetry. So then you take this and count over 1, 2. So if it's 1, 2, it's the same thing over here, 1, 2. So you just put a point right here. Now I'm going to switch colors. I'm going to go to a black so you can see it. So now all you have to do is connect your dots. No, it has a curve too. It has a nice steady curve like that. And then it has a curve that goes down like that. So that's a lot easier than using a table, using your transformations. Now if you go back up to the beginning, it says label the vertex. So all you want to do is just say vertex and just actually give the coordinate, which was -3, 4. And then you just want to write what the line is, so it's x equals -3. So that's your axis of symmetry. Now you don't have to write out axis of symmetry every time, especially when you're using a stylus because it's tough to write. But the big thing I'm looking for is the value, the vertex, and then the equation of the line down here. And since I know it's tough to read my stylus, and I'm not sure how you guys see it, what I did is I took a copy of the book right here. Kind of gives you step-by-step directions for it. So if you like that better, you might want to put that in your notebook. Kind of give you step 1, step 2, step 3, and step 4. Breaks it down. Basically just what I did. So you can use that as well.